Welcome, everyone. I'm very, very, very happy to see such a large group at the Flutter Belgium Meetup. I think this is the largest group we've managed to gather together, so I'm very happy about that. About half of you is new, which I'm also very happy about, because that means that the community is still growing, which is of course what we're aiming to do. First of all, Flutter Belgium at Howest. Again in Brugge. I think for the second time we're in West Flanders, which is very good, and always a really good turnout when we come out here, so that's really nice. Who are we? We are Flutter Belgium, and this is a bit our motto. We aim to create a welcoming community where everybody interested in the Flutter framework can come to learn or get inspired. And we've been doing so since 2018, so we're coming on 6 years now. And over those 6 years, we've been just growing and growing and growing. Koen showed us some stats yesterday, I think, or earlier today. It's really cool to see. Who are we? Who is it? Flutter Belgium, it's us three. It's Chris started it in 2018, and then 2 years ago, I think, Koen and I also joined to help the community grow. I think this is you.
Yes, all right. So, yeah, you can always follow us on all social media platforms. We're trying to expand, to reach more people, to maybe reach even people outside of Belgium. That's also why we're doing the live stream. So you can review or rewatch all the live streams on YouTube. You can join us on Slack. You're probably already in the meetup group, which is good, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. And of course, LinkedIn, where we share all the latest updates on all the meetups that we do. So that's the main channel of communication, I think. So please join, and we'll see each other there. I've been working on the Flutter Belgium app, which is an application where we can share some content, share also the meetup pages, maybe in the future do some extra integrations with what we have for our data, for example, the live streams or other data that we have. And we're also doing a live raffle at the end of every meetup, so that's also included in there, but more on that later. But yeah, you can download the application by scanning the QR code, and you will probably need it later tonight. So please take a look. We also have a partnership, I would say, with FlutterCon. So we have 25% discount on 20 tickets. I'm not sure how many are still left, but you can still try to use them. And at the end of today's meetup, we also have a raffle with 2 tickets to FlutterCon. So 2 lucky people will go for free to FlutterCon. Of course, you need to pay your plane, etc. Yourself, but the entrance fee is already fixed for you. So that's a really nice addition. We're always looking for speakers, so we have a great turnout today with 4 lightning talks speakers and 2 main speakers, which I think is the biggest turnout as well, related to speakers, which is good. So if you would like to tell something in a lightning talk, please do. It's only 5 minutes, where you can say anything related to Flutter or to Dart or your experience with Flutter or what you're currently doing. And if you want to give a longer talk on an advanced topic or an easy topic or a transition that you made from a developer to a project manager or anything in between, just reach out to us and we'll arrange a next meetup where you can speak. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give everyone a platform to speak and to grow, and just share knowledge with all the people that are here and across the world because of the live stream, of course. We're also always looking for hosts, and of course today that's Howest. So thanks again. Also thanks for the nice food and the drinks. But if you want to host yourself, just reach out and we'll arrange that as well. I think the next 2 meetups are already planned. So next one will be in 2025 already. So if you want to host, let us know and we'll arrange something.
All right. So today 4 lightning talks, one from about WebRTC from William there. And then Hugo will do a talk about working in a domain you enjoy. Yeah? Then Michael and Daniel together will give a lightning talk about behavior-driven development, BDD. And then we have Bram Dufour about the Bitcoin ecosystem. And then the longer talks, actually, Thijs over there, about OCR, and then Enzo here about accessibility. We also have an open space, so Peter there, he brought his Apple Vision Pro, so maybe we can have a look at it, how it works, and play with it. This is the QR code to maybe you can already scan it and install the app for the raffle. We will do it afterwards, but I will give you 5 seconds to scan it.
You can always
You
scan
can
the roll banners as well
Yeah.
during the breaks as well. So.
All right, and really thanks to Howest for organizing this one. I will give the word. So also you can say something how it goes with Howest.
Good evening, everyone. Really happy to see so many people here, both students, teachers, other people who develop in Flutter, even some people from another country, really enthusiastic about it. My name is Thijs. I work as a researcher at Howest, as an app developer, and now also AI researcher, or studying to be an AI researcher. Since I started working at Howest last year, I was the only Flutter developer at Howest, I think. So it's my goal to preach the Flutter framework here at Howest and to get this on the map, and to also get to let students know what Flutter is, and also try to let them join the community, and that is one of the efforts I'm trying to do here. As you can see also, a little bit of advertisement now. You see some IT Next posters hanging around. Especially you guys all know Flutter probably, but for those who are interested in learning Flutter, both who are already working or students who are now graduating this year, they can also enroll for our Flutter IT Next course, which is just an introduction into Flutter, how to use it, what it is, and how to learn to develop in Flutter. So if you're interested, if you know someone who is interested, please scan the QR code and spread the word. There's also other topics at IT Next, such as React and DevOps, but I won't go into detail for that now. I'm preaching Flutter. So welcome everybody. I hope you enjoyed the food, and I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the evening. And that's it.
All right, thanks. Okay, so the next meetup will be at Theoplayer. It will be in Leuven in September, at the end of September. And I think that will be the second product company who will be hosting. So pretty interesting how they started with their native SDKs, migrated to the Flutter SDKs, how they wrote it, and their learnings related to Theoplayer and Flutter. So if you're interested in that, you can already place it in your agenda, and we'll see each other there. So I think the next slide will be this one. So we'll probably start with the lightning talks. So the first one would be William.
Let's plug everything in. And hope that it all works first time. It's looking good. All right. Hello, my name is William. I work at iCaps. I'm a regular Lightning Talk speaker here. Today I want to talk a little bit about WebRTC. WebRTC is a protocol for peer-to-peer connection. You can do it on the same network or on different networks. If you want to do it on different networks, you're going to have to pay money for a turn server. If you're doing it on the same network, you can use just Google servers to provide with a connection. And then once you have the connection, you're connected peer-to-peer. So it's very useful to send large amounts of data. A colleague of mine developed an app, or is trying to develop an app called AnyDrop. It's to send data from your devices over the same network. And he a little bit challenged me. He said, it's going to be too difficult in Flutter. I said, how hard can it be? And turns out WebRTC is not that greatly documented, so it wasn't that easy. But yeah, after looking into it, I figured it out, and I wanted to share you how it works. So two things you'll need. You need the WebRTC protocol, so you'll need something. There's a package for Flutter for it. And you also need a WebSocket server. Or something similar. You can also use Firebase. It's to communicate between the devices before they're connected. And what you're going to do is, just send something from, hey, I'm here, just an update. And then the other user is also going to send something, hey, I'm here. And then the WebSocket is just sending it to everyone on the same network, saying, I've got user 1 and user 2. User 1 sees it and says, OK, I am user 1. So he only shows user 2. And then he says, I'm going to connect to user 2. He needs to send an offer. You need to save that offer. You're going to get like a small model, a small class. And then you need to send it to the other person. So that's where the WebSocket comes in. And once the other person gets that bit of data, he can send an answer. He can create an answer. He gets another bit of data, then you have to send it back. And then you can save the answer. Then you get an ICE candidate. Then you have to send that to the other person. And then once that is sent to his WebRTC, then you're connected and you can start sending data. So very quickly, I'm going to do a demo from a single device. I'm using an app and a website here. Why just one device? Because I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi, because this is an open Wi-Fi, so let's be secure and just gonna do it on a single device, but technically it works on if you're connected through multiple devices. It works just as good. So now here I can see I've got a device connected. It's a web browser. You can just select it. Then he says, yeah, I've sent an offer to the device. So you go to the other device. He'll see, I received an offer. Do you want to connect? So let's say, yes, I want to connect. And then he says, yeah, I'm connected. I'm ready to receive data. And over here, we'll see a drop-down box. So I'm going to select some data. Let's send this file. And there it goes. And then if I come here, I got the file. I can open it. And it opens another file. I hope this is the correct one. It can be a no? OK. I've tested it before with multiple files, and that's maybe fucking things up a little bit. But OK, that's how it works. You see, it works perfectly fine. So it goes pretty fast. You don't really see the whole process. But it's a mess to figure out how it works. There's also not really good models available for Flutter. So if you're interested, hit me up and I can help you out. Yeah.
Oh,
wait.
Thanks for the lightning talk. How long can a connection stay open?
That's a good question. I've not tested it for more than an hour, so I'm not sure. But I did, put in a system that reconnects. So
Oh,
You
okay.
can easily say, once you're disconnect, you can reconnect.
All right.
But you'll need the WebSocket server again to communicate between the two. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Hugo Garcia. I'm currently transitioning from academia to workforce. Oh, yes. And I have been present at Flutter for a couple of meetings already when they were smaller and cozier. But one thing I noticed is that these lightning talks are always fun to do and to listen. And I was hoping to share my experience in learning about Flutter, okay? So work in a domain that you enjoy, okay? So I encourage all and every one of you to work in something that you really like. Me, I like beer, okay? And I think a lot of people here like beer, okay? But I'm not from Belgium. I've been living here for 10 years and I still haven't figured out all the beers that are around, okay? And it's a big problem because when I come to a place like Brugge or Kortrijk or even I go to Limburg, there's always these microbreweries and fantastic beers, but it's almost impossible to find them, you know? And that was the premise that I had, okay, in approaching this project. I let it sit. And then I had to go to Puerto Rico, family issues. And but in Puerto Rico, I found out that the island actually has a small microbrewery industry that has been growing up for the past 10 years, okay? And right now there's 23 microbreweries all around the island. This is the island of Puerto Rico, okay? It's about the size of Vlaams-Brabant, kind of, okay? So, yeah, over there is Limburg, over here is Oost-Vlaanderen, okay? So the yellow ones are the equivalent of townships, gemeentes, okay? And this is a map that is produced by somebody, his name is Ricky Craft Beer. That's his Instagram, so I have to give him credit, and to his graphic designer, who I don't know his name. And they've created this map in order to help people to understand where are the breweries and which kind of breweries are. But I want to do an app. Wouldn't it be so cool if I could click on this information and find out not only where it is, but what is there, okay? And I was like full of ideas. I was like inspiration. Finally, I have a project to do something in Flutter. But I have no clue what I'm doing. And when I asked this guy to share with me his map, he told me, well, it's just a JavaScript thing that I found on the web. And I did a little searching, and there's actually a JavaScript of somebody that did this political map of the island about 14 years ago. And this is it's in the official Git repository of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico as the political map of Puerto Rico, okay? Now, I look at it, I say, wait, JavaScript, so what's powering it, okay? The project is called Atlas Puerto Rico, okay? And it was done as part of some research paper or PhD or master's or somebody, but I discovered that it's done in JavaScript and something called GeoJSON. JSON, yes. Finally, I had a format that I could figure out, but this is 14-year-old data. I don't know, I haven't done GeoJSON ever in my life. I don't know what's going on. So let's turn to the RFC. and read what is GeoJSON. It turns out to be very small, very concise, very nice. It's just points and very simple geographical shapes, okay? There's no circles, anything like that. And the format is as JSON. It's very readable. Okay, so I got these JSON stuff, but is it still working? Because the JavaScript was stopping to work. It's 14-year-old stuff. So I found an online validator and a linter. And with these basic tools, I started to modify all the little things that they have there. Well, let me go back to the map here, okay? Because that map is too granular. I was working with this map. So with the big provinces or gementes, okay? And turns out that each one of them has their own little JSON object. Voila, I could figure out, but it was like tons of files. Oh, I'm so glad I discovered Prettier on Visual Studio Code. And I found this program called QGIS or QGIS. I don't know how to pronounce this. It's wonderful because I could actually grab a file of JSON and just drop it, and bam, I could see what I was working with and if it worked. Remember, all I want are the ones that are in yellow, okay? And eventually I was like, well, why am I doing this as a clickable map? Why am I not using a map? And where else am I going to turn off but to OpenStreet, okay? And what I discovered was that this is where my mom lives, in Carolina, Puerto Rico. And actually around that red dot, just a coincidence. And this is the municipality where that has 2 beer breweries, okay? Very convenient too. And I found out that somebody in the government had done the same map, but with more refined GeoJSON. But how do I get it from here to Flutter? That was the question. Fortunately, I became an editor. I logged in, and there's an online editor where it will export this thing, okay, the line as GeoJSON. From there, then I could grab it and put it into a simple app with a package that is called Flutter Map JSON. No, Flutter Map, sorry. Flutter Map, and Flutter Map is just to deal with OpenStreet, okay? And you have to do all the controls and everything. It doesn't provide anything, just the window, which is fine, you know? Then you can play around with it. And I also discovered that one of the plugins reads JSON, GeoJSON, so I could finally get it from here through the plugin on GeoJSON into Flutter Map and create my first beer cart, okay? Still in the works. It's just no zoom, no buttons, no nothing. It just shows the municipality. I still have to put the pins. That will happen in the next couple of days. But I'm having fun. And I think when we approach things that in programming and development, we're always thinking about, well, do I do Scrum, the methodology, or it's object-oriented, domain design, whatever. But we always forget that we have to have fun in doing our stuff, okay? And that's the message I want to say here, okay? If you're ever going to work in something, find something fun and just do it, okay? So, where is this beer cart leading? I don't know. Maybe in a month or 2, I will have something much, much nicer. Maybe I'll be back and present to you a beer cart. It would be awesome to do something like this in another beer drinking country. Any suggestions? So, thank you. I'm enjoying my time learning Flutter, and I hope to meet you all, okay? Yes.
Hello everyone, I'm Bram Dufour and I'm a Bitcoin developer. And I personally think that Bitcoin is becoming more relevant each day, and I'm also seeing that Flutter is also becoming more and more relevant in the Bitcoin ecosystem, so more companies or apps are being built with Flutter, and there are also every time more packages available so that we as Flutter developers can more easily integrate like Bitcoin payments or Bitcoin related stuff in our own applications. And so I personally think it's a great combo. Firstly because as we know, it's a cross-platform, and in the Bitcoin space there are a lot of individual developers who want to build their apps or small startup teams, so it's good that it's cross-platform. And also, of course, to follow like the Bitcoin principles of having the control over your keys and over the Bitcoin. We want mobile applications, or we want to have we don't want to have something on a server controlled by someone else, so we need mobile developers building Bitcoin stuff. And also, like the Flutter foreign functions interface is also something nice, because there are a lot of Bitcoin libraries built in Rust or C that are already very well tested, and with a lot of contributors used in a lot of applications. And so with Flutter, we can use those libraries in our applications. And so I just want to share some packages that I use myself and that you can use if you want to start building on Bitcoin. So the first package there is the Bitcoin development kit. It's also a Rust library, but there are already Flutter packages that generate like the bindings. So, and that's actually a package that has all like the cryptographical stuff. So you don't have to be a cryptographer to start building on Bitcoin. So you can build. So it's very flexible package actually. So you can build very sophisticated things, like you can do multi-signatures. So you can build special types of applications and put logic in it just with this package. There's also the Lightning development kit. It's again originally a Rust library, but the bindings already exist for Flutter, and that's actually to the Lightning network is like it's called like a layer 2 on Bitcoin. So it's another network on top of Bitcoin for instant payments, so that your transaction doesn't need to take 10 minutes to be mined, but you can make instant payments with the same security than on the Bitcoin network, more or less. And so that's a package to integrate such a node, Lightning node, in a mobile applications for instant and cheaper transactions. There's also the Breeze SDK in Flutter. It's something similar, also to integrate Lightning payments in applications. And there's a whole bunch of packages, so that you don't have to be a Bitcoin specialist just to integrate Bitcoin in your applications. And I also want to show you projects that already exist and that are using Flutter. So we as Flutter developers, we can check the source code and see what the app really does, and so we don't, so we know where we are putting our money in. That's very important. So there's, for example, the Breeze app. It's a Lightning wallet. So for fast Bitcoin transactions, there's Envoy that's built in Flutter. That's for an app that to work together with a hardware wallet. So that's a special type of device to store your Bitcoin completely offline. Then there's Aqua Wallet, for example. That's also it also has some stable coins that can be swapped easily for Bitcoin. And so there's even the last one, but I didn't find the source code of that one, but it's Fountain Podcast, and you can, while you are listening to podcasts, you can stream Bitcoin to the creator. So if you listen for 5 minutes, you can put an amount that you want to stream to the creator, and so that's also like a nice application. It's built with Flutter, so there's a lot of things being built. And if you want to start with this building on Bitcoin yourself, together with the Belgian Bitcoin Embassy and Let There Be Lightning, we are giving free workshops for Flutter developers. So we are doing them in Leuven. The next one is the 27th of May. But yeah, all the code and instructions for the workshops are just on GitHub, so you can just follow them like a tutorial if you want to do it on your own pace. So there are the links. I will put this presentation in the Slack channel because it's a lot of links. So and yeah, thank you. That was just what I wanted to share.
I maybe have a question. You said a lot of the packages are based on the Rust implementation. Is that because in Bitcoin development in general, everything is built on Rust, or how? What's the reason behind that?
Yeah, I don't know the exact reason why, but there are just a lot of Rust developers in the ecosystem, and yeah, I think they do it mainly because I think Rust has like tools and stuff to create bindings for other languages. So I think that's one of the reasons, because so they make Flutter packages, then they make packages in other languages, but almost all from the same Rust code base. So yeah, it's something that is.
So it's not like the Rust code base compiles to native Android and native iOS. No, it's literally the Rust SDK that is implemented somewhere, and then through the bindings it goes to Flutter.
Mainly, yeah. There are also for the Bitcoin development kit or Lightning development, I think there are also Swift and Kotlin bindings, but there are also others which are just the bindings directly with the.
Okay, nice. Any other questions? All right, thanks again.
You.
We're going to talk about behavior-driven development with Flutter. I'm Michael, I'm the CTO of Lemon Companies.
And I'm Daniel, I'm an employee at Lemon Companies.
Who in this room already heard about BDD? Okay. Who thinks it's just about testing? Okay. It's about much more. Behavior-driven development is a philosophy, in my opinion. And it aims to give us tools, tips, and methodology to discover and formulate wanted behavior of your application, and then also, of course, of your tests. And BDD consists of the 3 important phases. Discovery is like about discovering your requirements, then the formulation, and how do you formulate those requirements in a constructive way, and then automation. And most people, when we talk about BDD, always speak about automation, but actually, in my opinion, as a CTO, the biggest value is in the first 2 phases. Because BDD decreases the amount of wrongly misunderstood requirements, thus in less rework. And by definition, and it's not about the testing and the automation, and that helps for the regression, but that's for me not the biggest advantage of BDD. So therefore, at Lemon and all our projects that are of a certain size, we use BDD. And now we also decided, in Flutter, we also wanted to go for the automation step. Very briefly, the first phase, discovery, we use the 3 Amigos meeting. It's a workshop of 1 hour where you sit together with the business, really your customer, your developer and designer, where you really go through your designs and speak about all the different scenarios and edge cases. And it's a very powerful way to bring over the knowledge to the whole team and discover the unknown unknowns. We do it in Miro, and you also can use techniques like example mapping to find out the business rules. The formulation is the second step. Therefore, you have gherking, which is, it's not Cucumber. Cucumber is just a company. Gherking is really the specification to do the formulation. So on the right, you see a script of a feature, manage your default budgets of an application, where you can see the given when-then scenarios that probably some of you already have saw in the past, but I don't go into too deep there. But that's what we write together after the workshop with the team. Ideally, the philosophy says that the business should write those scripts, but you can try if they won't do it. So we do it together as a team, the development team. But as Daniel knows, you also have to be careful with developers, because if they write it the first time, they really write, when I fetch this get call, then I have to do this post call. And it's really about business language. So it's also a good way for you as a developer to really understand the domain. Yeah, so here you see, this is the screens, and right is the scenarios for that feature.
Now, I as a developer was given the challenge to implement all of this in Flutter. And as a developer, I want to do the least amount of work possible. So I went for an automation package to write them for me from the feature file. Now, the package we used for that was BD widget test, and then I want to do less work, so I added to that package. Yeah, it didn't work out. But eventually, basically what the package does is it generates just a regular Flutter test file from our feature file. All the tests themselves are written, though each step undertaken within the test we still need to implement ourselves. Some functionality was missing for this for me. I could not add any before or after hooks, which is kind of necessary. A good example would be when the test fails, I wanted to be able to take a screenshot of when the test failed so I know what was going wrong. That was not yet possible. I added it to the package. Now, there are a few roadblocks I hit when I was trying to implement this in Flutter. The first one being you cannot interact with native at all. It's kind of a limitation in Flutter test itself. For our next application, we are going to look at Patrol to try and alleviate this issue. So if anyone has experience with Patrol, please do contact us.
And also, yeah, from a client perspective, there are also no gherking outputs of the tests, which really helps for your customers, because customers expect that you write tests, so it's really hard to ask extra money for it. But in our other projects in Node, there we can generate these beautiful files, and you can also really see the progress of where you are in your app in implementation. And that's also something that's missing, that we at some point have to write ourselves to parse it, and then can drop it in Cucumber reports.
Yes.
And then I think a very brief demo, it's nothing. This is actually the output of a working test that runs on a simulator and that goes through the scenarios and clicks really fast. Also something, it's to run all the tests, we have quite a lot. I think it takes 20 minutes almost.
Yeah.
So it's
each feature file, it reboots the entire app once again, because that's how separate Dart files works for integration tests. So it takes 20 seconds for each feature file to even start, and when you have a lot of features, it takes a lot of time.
okay. But for regression, it's nice that we have the tests. So that was our talk.
Yes. Any questions? Oh, perfect.
Right. Maybe some small introduction still. while we're setting up the live stream again. So Thijs will indeed be talking about OCR in Flutter. I think we've had a similar talk in the past, or a little bit similar. So nice to see another perspective maybe. So take the stage.
All right. Who was that guy who...
I'm not sure.
Because I have so many questions for him. All right. Hello, everyone. Again, it's me. I'm Thijs, Flutter developer at a research party at Howest. Started working as a developer only last year, so I made a sort of career switch alongside my career as a working man. And I would like to take you through my first application I developed as a software developer, which used object detection and OCR in Flutter. So first of all, short introduction about Cyber Tree Labs, the research group where I work. Then I will give you an introduction about Lambrecht Trailers, the company for which we did a research project. And then, of course, I'll going to do a little bit more deep dive into object detection in Flutter. And not only the Flutter part, because I hope that many of you haven't used object detection in Flutter before, correct me if I'm wrong. But I want to take you from the steps from data acquisition to deploying a model in Flutter. So not only the Flutter part, but also a little bit Python, a little bit just how to acquire data, what to look for. And then, of course, the second part of my project used OCR, Object Character Recognition in Flutter. And then, of course, there will be some question time, maybe from me to you guys if you have experience with it, or you guys to me if you have any questions about my project. But, well, it was my first Flutter project, so yeah, I learned a lot of it. But there's still a lot of things to learn about object detection, of course, for me. So Cyber Tree Labs, that is my research group at Howest where I work, and we as a research group try to help small and medium-sized companies in Flanders to incorporate immersive technology into their product, into their workflow. With immersive tech, I mean artificial intelligence, Web3, blockchain, AR, VR, XR. So all that stuff we try to innovate in. Now, Lambrecht Trailers. Who is Lambrecht? Lambrecht Trailers, I'll pause the button a little bit, is a company who makes, of course, trailers, which are used to transport dry bulk goods to their customers, or to customers. And with dry goods, I mean flour, dry animal food, etc., etc. And every trailer has multiple compartments because they just do a tour towards all customers and deliver product on site, all different products. And at the back of the trailer, there's a controller, there's a PLC, and there's a controller to actually enable the driver to control the unloading process into the silos. And this is how the product is now. If the driver arrives on site, it connects his trailer to the silo, to the filling pipe, and you can see this black device there hanging onto the silo. That is actually a device that makes connection with the controller and does a cross-check to make sure the driver connected its hose of the trailer to the correct silo. Because if you put wrong product into the wrong silo at the customer, that can be a very costly error, of course, especially sick animals, maybe dead animals, or the wrong product in your food you are producing. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is what Lambrecht Trailers is producing, and that was the company I developed an application for. So why the application? Again, we have the trailer cabinet and we have the silo reader. And the silo reader is especially just to make it more dummy-proof. The silo tag reader contains of two elements. One element which is just a fancy NFC reader or NFC tag that is attached permanently to every silo at every location, at every customer. And then there's a tag reader that travels together with the trailer at all times, which the driver can then attach to every tag reader, which cross-checks with the RFID which silo number it is attached to, and then it transfers that data or that information or ID from the silo towards the controller of the trailer, and that trailer decides whether to release one of its compartments the driver selected or not. But there's some issues with that current system. First of all, there's a financial issue. Most of the customers, they're farmers, they just want to pay for the product they purchased. They don't want to purchase any other equipment just to make sure the driver unloads the product into the right silo. That is the responsibility of the company who delivers the product on site. That is not their problem, they think, so they don't want to pay for all these tag readers. And every tag reader costs about 200, 300 euros for every silo. So that's quite, it's not a lot for a big company, but it's still a cost they don't want to pay. Secondly, there is a human error, especially if you look at those images where all the pipes of the silos are next to each other. If the driver has had a rough night, and he's not paying attention, and it has happened before, he attaches the hose to pipe A, let's say, and he attaches the silo tag reader to pipe B, and you have the same problem. Okay, so that is the human error that is still sometimes occurring. Next, it's a bit marketing strategy. The system is outdated. They want to come up with a 2.0 version of their equipment or their controller. And the fourth problem was that I had only 30 days myself to come up with a solution for that, develop an application for that company. All right. So luckily, I was just hired by Howest. I was very eager to start developing in Flutter. So Flutter to the rescue. My solution was develop a smartphone application that replaces, first of all, the silo tag reader, which eliminates the hardware costs for the customer, because the smartphone will always travel like the tag reader with the trailer, and which hopefully makes the unloading process more dummy-proof. And how did I wanted to do that, or did I do that? By using object detection to check if there was a hose and a silo connection actually made. So we know there's a connection between the trailer and the silo, and use object character recognition to scan the silo ID, because there was one thing they told me at Lambrecht: every farmer always has a very good readable ID number on every silo pipe. That's the only thing that's always available and is always there. So I wanted to use OCR to detect that silo ID number and then transfer it through communication with the controller. So object detection. Object detection is a subcategory of computer vision. There's a lot more to that, but as you can see on the video, that is object detection in a live image view. So you detect objects in an image or in an image stream. Next to object detection, computer vision also has segmentation, pose detection, image classification, and one very popular system to do that is YOLO. Not you only live once, but you only look once. And YOLO has had many versions, from version 1 until I think we're now at version 9. Not all from the same company, but they're open source. And I used YOLO V8. Again, QR codes, you will see a lot of links in my presentation as well. But it's if you want to play around with it later on, you have all the websites and links, of course. So I used YOLO for object detection, and that is the part that I want to talk about to you today. So how do we get from images or an ID towards deploying a model on Flutter, on a Flutter application? First of all, we have that data acquisition, which is probably one of the most important parts in creating an AI model, of course. If you have bad data, your model will never perform as you want it. So it's really important, especially if you give the customer the assignment to gather data, what he needs to look out for, and that you have enough data, not always the same images from the same angle from the same site, but really try to get a good data set with images for your model. Next, of course, and that's very boring, but it's very important also, labeling your data. Basically, drawing bounding boxes around each object that you want to detect. And if you have 500 images, 1,000 images, that can be a very boring day at work, but nevertheless very important to have a good model. And then, of course, the third step is to train the model. Fourth step, evaluate your model. If not performant enough, you can try to improve it by adding more data, by hyperparameter tuning or something. So you can try to improve your model. And of course, the last step is Flutter, the implementation in a Flutter application. So back to my project. My first idea was, well, how can I detect that there's a valid connection between those hoses from the trailer and the pipes of the silos? My first idea was, well, just check for a male and a female clamp connection intertwining with each other. But as soon as I discussed that with the customer, he said, okay, I will go on site, I will gather pictures. But, well, I think 2 days or some days after my initial idea, he called me back and said, well, it's basically not possible to acquire enough data from everything, because I checked our warehouse, and in total we have more than 400 variations of clamp connections at customers. So it's really not standardized. It's really the Flemish way. Everyone has its own connection. So that was not really useful in order to get a really model that would behave very well. So our solution, remember, we had only had 30 days to come up with a proof of concept. Just design a generic clamp, which was at that time just a yellow painted clamp we permanently attach to the hose that is traveling with the trailer. So we know it's always there. And if we see that in our camera image, we know that there's a hose from the trailer connected to the pipes. You can always put it somewhere, but I'll get to that, how we made that a proof. But in fact, with that clamp, we only had to take about 500 pictures, and we had a model that was performing really well, which had no false detections during testing, at least, and it had it always detected the clamp when it was in the camera image. So the labeling part, again, the boring part. Many tools available if you want to try it out. I used Supervisely to do it. Just upload your entire data set and start drawing bounding boxes. It's an online tool, but there's many others online. You have CVET, and also if you want to do it offline, you have, for example, label image, which is just a Python code with a UI. But also I played around with it afterwards before this demo, and it's also very user-friendly to do. The links are attached at the end of the presentation if you want to go, if you want to play with it. After you have labeled your data, you have to export that data set again, especially if it's online, of course, and get it back on your computer to start training your model. If you export your data set that is labeled, you'll probably have some folder structure such as this. Both a folder with images containing images and a folder containing labels. And each folder has two subfolders, a training set and a validation set. Training set, of course, is used during training. The validation set is used after every iteration over all the images. When your model is training, it will use images that it has never seen before, of course, to evaluate your model to see if it's actually training on the right pixels on your image, of course. So these are the training and validation set. And most of the time, you put between 10 or 30% of your images in your validation set from your training set. Depending on how much images you have, you can play around with that. The labels are just TXT files, and they have, so don't play around with that folder structure if it's important, otherwise it won't find those folders again when training. And also don't play around with the file names, because every TXT file has the same file name as the image, the corresponding image on which you drew the bounding boxes. And then every TXT file has just, for every object you annotated, one line of numbers, and every line has 5 numbers or values. The first one is the class number. If you have multiple objects, like I want to detect this smartphone, you have 2 classes. This will be class 0 if I started annotating for this controller, and then this will be my first, my class 1 for in my labels. And then there's 4 other coordinates, let's say, and that is the first 2 are just the center of the bounding box you drew. Not in pixels, but in percentages of the total width and height of the image. A little bit confusing at the beginning, but it's always a number between 0 and 1, of course, okay? At least this is for training your models. Can be different for other models. So wanted to say that. So the width and height are the first 2 numbers of the center of the bounding box, and the 2 last numbers are then the width and the height of the bounding box you drew, also in percentages of the total width and height. So just you understand what those labels are and what they mean. When you export your dataset, there's also a YAML file added, and this is just the configuration. So if you start training your model or your Python code knows where to find that training dataset or your training images and your validation images. If it knows the images, the path of the images, it automatically knows, okay, there's also a folder labels, and that is why you can't change the folder structure, at least with YOLO V8, because it also always assumes that this is the folder structure it is using. Okay, is everyone still following? Just a quick check. Yeah, okay. Then we come to the Python part, and luckily you don't need to know with YOLO a lot of Python in order to train a model successfully. 4 lines of code, and that's all it takes. Of course, you need to pip install Ultralytics package, but then it's just downloading a pre-trained model, because if you want a good object detection model, you won't be, what most of the people won't be using, starting from scratch, defining all their neural layers. They will just download a pre-trained model used for object detection, and then they will just retrain the last layers just to train that pre-trained model to detect the images or the objects that you want to detect, of course. So that is, the first one is to download that model, to have it on your computer to retrain it. Then we train the model. You just provide the path to your YAML file, so it knows where to find the images and the labels, and you define the amount of epochs. At my demo, I can see it's now at 1. This won't work. I think for Lambrecht, for the project, I set it to 300 epochs, and epochs is just the amount of times your model will see every single image in your data set. Okay? With YOLO, you don't need to think about it that much. It has early stopping. If it notices after 70 epochs that it isn't improving for the last 10 epochs, then it will just do early stopping and tell you, okay, I didn't notice any improvement. If you want more epochs to train it, to train a better model, you should probably add more data or do something with your data. So it still notices more improvement. So I set it at 300 epochs, but it stopped after 150 epochs, for example. And then the last part, you can see the pre-trained model is a PT file, .pt extension. You cannot use it in mobile applications. You still have to convert it into an extension that you can actually use with your package. Most of the time, that's a TF-Lite format. Okay, so that last line is to export it so we can actually use it in a Flutter application. And then we come to the Flutter part, of course, deploy that model. And there is one particular package that was very good for me, for my project at least, and that was the Flutter Vision package, because it's specifically developed to manage YOLO v5 and v8 models. So that was perfect for me. Just don't add to, so of course you add your model to the puspack.yaml file or the folder structure, of course, you put it in your assets folder. And then you have to create a txt file yourself, just with the names in it. Just every object you want to detect, you have to just write a name, what you want to detect. Because if you want to, for example, like you saw in the video for object detection, you want to say, hey, that's a fish. You need to add fish to that txt file. Very simple, very straightforward. But don't forget to add it. Because if you, I'll come to that. So yeah, how do we deploy that to a Flutter application? First of all, you probably all know the camera package. We use it all the time. So you just initialize a camera preview or a camera view. And as soon as that camera view is initialized, you will load your model. And for that, we'll use the Flutter Vision package. There's a method in that package, load YOLO model, very straightforward. You just provide the path to the labels file you just created. You provide the path to the model. You convert it to a TF-Lite format. And then you just tell it it's a YOLO v8 or YOLO v5 file. And that's it. There's some other parameters like quantization, number of threads, and GPU. You don't have to set those parameters, but you can play around with it. Quantization is to make your model it's a little bit less performant, not much, but you will save some battery life if you put that on. So yeah, it's a little bit less performant, but I don't notice anything about performance if I set it to true that flag. Number of threads, don't put it too high, otherwise you might run out of memory. 1 or 2 is more than sufficient for YOLO. And then use GPU. I set it to false, I set it to true, but I didn't notice that much difference. So yeah, you should play around with it yourself because I didn't put much detail into that part. Next, we start an image stream. And on every image we get from our image stream, we want to apply, of course, our YOLO model. YOLO is very fast, which enables you to do it on every camera image. And then, so on every image we apply the YOLO, and what do we get back is just a list of detected objects, or a Dart, which is just a list of Dart objects, which contain some parameters. First of all, the class that was detected, class 0 in our case, for example. And then you have the box property, which is just showing you, and that is a little bit confusing, the top left corner in coordinates, and then the width and the height. So not the center of the bounding box, but then the top left corner. So that was a little bit confusing for me. But then, after playing around with it, because you have to, your camera image view is not always the same with the camera stream image. That is a little bit, I played around with it, that was not very easy. But yeah, after you have this result, you can apply or start drawing bounding boxes around your objects you detected or do something else with it. So what I did, for example, in my Flutter application for Lambrecht, I of course drew a bounding box around the clamp I detected, but I also enabled a button, so that button isn't visible or is disabled until we start detecting a clamp in the field of view that we wanted. And you can see at my camera image, a part of the live camera view is grayed out, you see. And that the reason why I did that was YOLO is not applied or is applied, but is ignored when objects are detected there. So the customer or the driver really has to align the pipe he attached the hose to with the red line, which is in the middle, and all other pipes that are next to it are always ignored. And that makes it a little bit more dummy-proof, because if you put the hose on pipe A, but you want to scan the pipe next to it or the ID, you won't be able to, because a lot of the camera view is actually disabled for OCR and for camera image. So you cannot, unless you play around with it a little bit. Of if there's strange shapes, you could still maybe cheat with it. But otherwise, it's quite dummy-proof. If you just scan it, you won't be able to scan anything faulty with it. And that brings us to OCR. So we have detected our valid connection between the trailer and the silo. Now we want to scan of course, the silo ID on the pipe. So what is object character recognition? It's basically trying to get all the text. So if your image contains written text, typed text, any kind of text, try to detect that and convert it into a usable string which you can use in your code, of course. And how that's done? First of all, if you process an image for OCR, most of the time there's some pre-processing of the image to make the contrast between the text and the background a little bit better. And then you just analyze the document. You first try to detect text boxes in your camera view. So you define all the boxes where there's probably text. And then for every box with text you detected, you will do segmentation. So you will split up line by line, because you really want to read as a human all this text, or you want to put all these characters after each other. And then for every line or a segmented line of text, we will of course then detect every character one by one, and then just paste everything together, and the result will be, or the output will be, a list of string values which you can use. For every detected text field will be one string, okay? The package to do that, you don't need to train anything yourself. I wouldn't even dare to try to train that, because it's quite complex to do, I think. If there's anyone who ever succeeded to do that, good job. I certainly don't know how to do it. But luckily, Google MLKit has a ready-to-use, out-of-the-box text recognition package in Flutter, which works really, really well for detecting text in images. So I just used that one, and there wasn't a lot of problems with that one. For my application, I just had to pause the object detection, of course, to save battery life. I don't want to have any object detection while I'm scanning for text, and to save memory, of course. So I paused the object detection, and then I took a picture. The reason why I took a picture and not used just the last frame of my stream of images was because sometimes, especially if, like, the lighting is here not very ideal, I can preset before I start using it. If it's dusk or if it's dawn, I can play around with the camera settings. I can save them in my application, and I can apply that when I'm trying to find text in the image. So I pause the object detection, I take a picture with preset camera settings, and then I apply just OCR on it just by using the text recognition package and process image. You give it an image and it returns a list of objects again. What are these objects? Of course, the objects contain the string value of the text, a list of string values, or the string value for every object in that list, and also the bounding box of that text field. And that is very important for me, that it's not only the text, but also the location of the text in the image, because I also don't want to scan any text outside of my enabled area for object detection, of course. And then, of course, the silo number is returned. The user or the driver can confirm if it was in fact the correct silo number. Sometimes if some funny guy puts some stickers on the pipe, sometimes I can't avoid that there's multiple text fields detected. But in that case, I will have just radio button options to select. I detected multiple possible silo numbers. Just select the one that to confirm which one is the silo number. As soon as that is done, I make connection with the trailer using TCP/IP communication. I just send the silo number and the confirmation that I did it by using it automatically, because I also added a foolproof system right now that you can manually enter the silo number if it doesn't work, because it's a proof of concept. So with a flag, if it's manually inserted, if the driver is getting lazy, or if it's just actually detected with the app. And then it's just sent there, and then the correct, just let me pause it for a second, then the correct compartment in the trailer is released. So, my conclusion for the application. YOLO V8, perfect for the object detection job. It's really good, it's really performant. Downside, Flutter Vision is only for Android. They said at the time, 7 months ago, that iOS was coming soon, but it's still coming soon, so I'm not sure what the time frame there is. But yeah, if you want to really develop as a Flutter cross-platform, that package wasn't ideal. Another package I tested out, PyTorch Lite, is cross-platform and made for YOLO V8, so you can always use that one if you want to make it actual cross-platform, at least for mobile, so not for desktop. The downside also for object detection on your phone is the packages, they result in a large build size for your APK. It's not an exception that it's 100 megabytes in size if you build a release APK. Luckily, if you want to still, because there's a limit on the Play Store if you upload an app to 100 megabytes, if you provide the ABB package, they can split it up for every chip architecture, and then it's around 60 megabytes, so you can still upload it to the Play Store if you want to. OCR, well, turns out not ideal for large single characters. Luckily, it was a research project. We can say it's not ideal. We don't have a product. We have just a proof of concept. But especially when you have dusk or dawn, it's difficult to detect very large text compared to the total image view, and especially if it's just a single character. Then it's not always detected as text, so OCR is not applied on it, especially if it's a little bit bent around the pipe. Furthermore, that's becoming sometimes difficult. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. So yeah, another solution we explored, but that would extend our 30 days of development, was of course try to actually use object detection and really try to detect silo numbers and train a model for that, an OCR model for silo number recognition actually. But that will take me too far into 30 days of development. This is a link overview for all the packages. So for YOLO V8, there's 3 packages. The Flutter Vision I used. PyTorch Lite is cross-platform for for iOS and Android. Ultralytics, the creators of YOLO V8 itself, also released a package recently, and I tried it and it didn't work. So I wouldn't advise. I hope they will improve it, because their native Android package did work very good. So I hope they will improve it, but for me at least, I didn't get it to work in the short time I had available before this demo to try to get it working. Other Vision packages, but not out of the box compatible with TF Lite formats when a YOLO V8 model is trained, are MLKit, also object detection, TF Lite and TF Lite Flutter. OCR, there's only one package I would advise, and then the annotation tools are always added. Unfortunately, I cannot share the code from Lambrecht with you guys. So for that, I quickly made a sort of Flutter game where you can use object detection to detect Flutter logos to unlock the next door in your maze, of course. And then the second lock, of course, you have to try to scan, to find words with your camera in the room. And then as soon as you scan these words and these words are recognized, you will unlock the last door to complete the maze. So the code is available on GitHub if you want to play around with it. Because I'm quite new at Flutter, if you find anything that hasn't been developed in the right way, please let me know. I'm eager to learn more about Flutter to create better code, especially for object detection. It was difficult for me at that time. So really let me know if there's any improvements. I'm always eager to learn. So that was it, right on time. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Hope it was learningful. And if you have any questions, now would be the time.
Awesome talk and awesome project. So let me know if you're ever hiring. But what I'm curious about is like, would there be a way that we could also get rid of the usage of a phone to do this? I can imagine if you're connecting these pipes and then maybe you're wearing gloves and stuff like that, it might be hard to use a phone for that. Yep. Would there be any ways to like maybe have a camera installed on the vehicle or on the pipe, or?
Yeah, that would be possible, just if the driver always approaches the pipes from the same angle, of course. There's a solution to everything, so we could use maybe tracking or detection even to like, let's say, check if the camera is, or where the pipes or the silo is, in fact, or where the driver is, in fact. But I like the smartphone because the possibilities are endless, and also you have direct feedback. So if the camera was, like, let's say on the trailer, for example, and if it scanned the wrong silo number for some reason, or something went wrong, you still need a screen to see what went wrong, or you have to get back to the trailer cabinet and to the PLC to check what was wrong. But I'm sure there are many ways to do it. But yeah, like I said, I was very, very happy to start developing a Flutter, so I chose for the application. Yeah.
All right, awesome, thanks.
Indeed, really nice talk. I even think your talk was better than Google I/O keynote yesterday.
Haven't seen it yet.
But my question maybe is related to MLKit and Firebase. I think MLKit is also hosted on Firebase. I think there's also object detection on Firebase. Did you try that as well?
No internet connection on site. That was the reason. We really needed to deploy or to have our model running locally. The TCP server I talked about was just, there's just a server on the trailer that broadcasts a Wi-Fi network for me to connect to, but that's it. So that was one of the requirements. In fact, we don't want to use any internet connection for that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was the only reason. But in fact, Firebase is very good, and then that way you can keep your build size of your APK much lower because it's done on the cloud. Yeah.
And it would also work on iOS then.
Yeah. Exactly. There's many ways for object detection. The YOLO part is just one of them, and I was familiar with YOLO at the time, so that was the first reason why I went there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Really nice talk.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi. Very interesting. Very relevant. I'm currently working on segmentation, so some things would have saved me some time.
Okay.
So pretty cool. 2 questions. Did you look into the licensing model of YOLO?
No.
So YOLO's licensing says everything you write using YOLO needs to be open source.
Okay.
So it's a bit difficult. There is also a fee, but you'll have to contact them if you want to use it for commercial use. And I haven't done that, so that's why I asked.
Good to let me know. I didn't know that. I thought it was you could use it.
Yeah.
The box. Yeah.
So no. And a second question: what was the end result? What did they do with a proof of concept?
Well, happens to had an email today that they have now hired a company to make it into a product, and they asked again for the source code for it. So hopefully,
cool.
they can still reuse some of my codes to make a product, an actual product. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hi. I just a small question. Do you have an idea on the impact on the battery life of your device?
No, I don't have any numbers, but it does impact your battery. You just can feel it if you doing object detection and while testing, for example, and if it's running for, let's say, 10 minutes, it gets
heats
warm.
up a lot. Okay.
Yeah. But luckily for this application, it's all done in under a minute. It's really quick. It's just scanning, it's detecting, buff, OCR, it's at the number, okay, send, and that's it. So for the application, and especially, and I didn't mention that, but one of the things with a smartphone, of course, if you're a driver and you're going from site to site, one thing I implemented was you scan the image, or you scan the silo, it gets done, and then you want to go to the controller to start regulating the unloading process. You put your phone away somewhere. If there's something, you put it there, and then you're ready, and you start driving to the next customer. You arrive on site, and oh shit, I forgot my my smartphone. So what did we do for that? So the trailers are always locked. The locks of the trailer are always on, and it always needs to be back in its loading tray at the trailer cabinets. It detects if it's loading, and it sends a signal again over TCP/IP to say, okay, I'm back in my loading tray. You can unlock the trailer wheels, so you can't depart unless your phone is back again in the loading tray. Yeah, that was really. You can override it in the controller, of course, but you need to do if it wouldn't work for some reason. So I made sure they could still leave. But yeah, so that was the reason. Not sure what the original question was again, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You mentioned that package that was only available in Android.
Flutter Vision, yeah.
Yeah. What's been your experience so far with regard to Android-specific and iOS-specific issues and Flutter in general?
Can you repeat that again? Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that question.
Yeah. Have you had many issues that were just coming from the Android side of mobile or just iOS?
No, not really. No, not many issues. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No. Do you? Or
no, I'm just looking into Flutter development.
Yourself. Yeah. What I find most of the time, if it's packages that are well supported, and you can they really show it to you how many likes, how many points, or how you call it. I'm not sure what the word is. Really, just analyze the package. You can see in one view what platforms it supports, of course, how popular it is. Sometimes it's tagged as Flutter favorites, and if these are all indications that it's well supported and it's good, and then you won't have any problems with it. I started very briefly with native Android before I started studying Flutter. I'm self-taught, so I had to do it all myself, and I had a lot of more problems developing a native Android than I had with Flutter. So if you're familiar with Android and iOS, Flutter will be a walk in the park for you if you start doing it. Yeah.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, we will take All right. Second talk of the evening, second main talk of the evening. We have the first international speaker here at Flutter Belgium. So thanks for your efforts to come here and to speak for all of us. You're doing a lot of talks elsewhere in Europe, I think, as well. You're from
in Europe.
Yeah, all right. You're from Bordeaux,
Yeah.
so you had quite a trip today.
It's
But,
okay.
it's
It's a
okay.
neighbor. We're a neighbor. You see. I mean, like closer to the other side, but I'm like very happy to be here. Very happy to be like your first international speaker.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thanks. So yeah, take the stage and enjoy.
All right. Perfect. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, I'm good to go? Yes, all right, let's go. So today we're going to speak about accessibility. I think it's a topic that's not a lot of other people speak about, so maybe you'll be interested in. I think it's super interesting and you don't have to know a lot about Flutter or anything exactly. It's just pure logic. So firstly, who am I? As somebody introduced me, I'm not from Belgium. I'm from Bordeaux. My name is Enzo Conti. I call myself a senior freelance Flutter developer, but it just means that it's been like 6 years I'm doing like some Flutter, and I've always been a freelancer. Right now I work for Invertase, but I'm actually working, they're paying me at least for being like an open source software engineer. I'm working on Ubuntu, so if you have issues on Ubuntu, it's probably my fault. And you have also my socials. Okay, so I made a little bit of an agenda, so we'll have a main timeline. So firstly, we're going to speak about accessibility, what it is, what does it matter. The other forms of disabilities, so when we speak about disabilities, what are we exactly speaking about? Then after we'll have the topic about demystifying accessibility. I love this topic, we'll see after. And after we'll see like the boring, little bit more boring part, which are the solution, because not everything is super easy in this way. All right, let me just change one thing. Yeah, perfect. All right, accessibility. Who actually have no clue of what is accessibility here? No, everybody is an expert. All right, perfect. So I don't have anything to do here, right? Okay, so if we take the definition by Wikipedia, they told us that accessibility is making content and services accessible to the people with disabilities and more generally to all the users. This is the most important part. This is the more generally to all users. So it's not about, when you speak about accessibility, we're not speaking about like, oh yeah, we have to specifically target one handicap. We're speaking about like everybody, and if we can handle handicaps, it's better. It's like bonus point kind of. So here is like the Wikipedia definition. And now why should we care? Because that's the main topic. I'm telling like right away why should we care about accessibility, because most people are like, oh yeah, accessibility boring. Okay, I'm just going to go on my phone and do something else. So I'm telling you why you should care, and after if you want to go on your phone you can. So we have the Worldwide Health Organization, WHO, WHO, who are estimating that around 15% of the global population on Earth have some kind of disabilities or deficiencies. So this is super important because firstly, 15% is a big number. But also, if I didn't convince you correctly with this, you probably can recognize like this flag. It was a little bit more awkward when I do this talk like in London last time. And like starting in 2025, there is something called the European Accessibility Act, EAA. What does exactly that mean? That means like starting 2025, we will now have like some regulation about accessibility in Europe. And 2025 is soon-ish. And what does that exactly mean for us developers and companies? So that means like starting like 2025, if you want to create a new product, it will have to have like some kind of accessibility features. It will have to support some kind of accessibility right to go public, basically. And so we're talking about ATMs, we're talking about like ticket distributor, we're speaking about banks, we're speaking about basically everything. Like everything which is digital, everything that you interact with every day, it will have some kind of accessibility. I don't know, but last time I went to the bank, there was like basically no accessibility features on my ATM. So there is a huge problems with that. So this is like 2025 for the new product, and for the old products, which is basically already in production, they have until 2030, which is like 5 years, is quite short too. So now that I told you, we have like basically two choices. So we are waiting like we are waiting for adding accessibility. So basically we just like don't care whether we'll see in 2030 or 2025. We don't care. Or you become a leader in accessibility right now, right away in 2024. You start making like formation and like start speaking about accessibility, knowing your way and like building application with accessibility. And after becoming like basically a business leader, because this is also what it is. There is a big part of Europe and Europe business in general who will go toward you, because it's a big miss for companies. They need to transition it toward accessibility, but there's not a lot of people who know about accessibility. So this is one of the choices. All right, so now we can check that the thing that we see what is accessibility, we know what is it. So it's different from accessibility. There is like three main categories of disabilities. The first one is the sensory disabilities. So what does that mean? We're speaking about blind people or visually impaired people, and deaf and hard to hearing people. So this is pretty clear. I don't think I have to explain anything here. We have like cognitive disabilities, which are more like about dyslexia and ADHD oriented problems. And we also have hyperactivity, but it's probably close-ish to ADHD in what we will speak about later on. And we have mobility disabilities, which is like person with reduced mobility, PRM, and temporary. By temporary, what I mean like tomorrow, I don't know, you go to hiking, you made a bad fall, you break your leg or you break your arm, and you have to go on your phone or do something, and now you have only one arm, so it might be like temporary you have a disability, so you will not be able to use like your arm. There is like plenty other category of disabilities, but otherwise we will be there until tomorrow morning. So what we're going to do is we're just going to speak about the three main ones. And if you want more information on the other, you can basically see me after, or you can also just see all the documentation that I'll put after on that. All right, so we know about the form of disabilities. So let's speak about demystifying accessibility. This is my favorite one, because when I speak with people about accessibility, they say, oh yeah, that's so nice, but my boss will never want to do that because we have to push feature and we have no time to make accessibility. And I agree with this. So I'm going to speak about the lies about accessibility. All right, there is a few sentences like this one. I'm going to go one by one toward them. And this is a sentence that I heard about businesses say, or managers who told me like, oh yes, this is whatever. And I'm going to kind of like to debunk them. So the first one is like, it's only for a few users. And we just saw just before that it's around like 15% of the global population, which is basically 1,183,200,000 people, which is quite a lot. And it's actually more than Europe and the US combined. So if you ever think like, hey, I don't know, I shouldn't care about accessibility, but also my app only have like 100 users, maybe it's a time to kind of check about accessibility. Maybe you can grab some users like this. Okay, I also have the sentence I've been like told quite a lot of time, that accessibility makes my product more expensive to develop. And this is true and false. It kind of depends on where do you start accessibility. Why? Because if you start accessibility when you already have a full-fledged product and you say, oh yeah, now we have to make it accessible, then yes, because maybe you didn't design it correctly, so it's not accessible in the right away. So basically you have to redo some stuff, and yes, it's going to be expensive because you will hire designer, you will hire developer time, you will hire complex testers or something like this, and this takes time. Yes, I agree with this. But in most cases, if it's done correctly, it is not more expensive at all. So false. Also, this one I heard quite a lot of time by banks or huge administration, and they told me like, yeah, my product is way too complicated to be accessible. No way. And for that, I only have like one thing to say. Your product is too simply poorly designed. This is the truth. If you think that a product is not possibly accessible, then it's probably just that you are very wrong and you don't want to put any effort in it. That's the issue usually. So if we also have like this one, to have an accessible product, it must be ugly. This one I heard a lot. Like kind of like, yeah, if you want to have something accessible, you have it to have like big fonts, everything disgusting, you have to scroll a lot, nobody understands anything. And that's not true. And for that I have an example. So I took the Amazon logo from 1995, and this is also the website in 2004 from Amazon. So just for a quick context, in 2004, it means that we already had the iPhone, and the logo is just old. But why is it important? Because nowadays we have this. The Amazon logo is like very distinguishable. We can see it, we understand it very clearly, what the brand is, what does it mean. For somebody on the old logo who was visually impaired, it will be like a huge mess. It can be like not understanding that it's actually an A. What does it represent? And for the website, on the other one, if I just go back, you can see clearly that you have no one, you can't understand what does a navigation menu goes through. Is it like it's not readable? It's like way too small. You don't understand everything, and it's way too crowded. Now we have like a proper navigation, a navigation menu on top. We understand very clearly what does what, and like if you click on a button, you understand very clearly what is a button, what is not, what's the description, what is a product, and basically you know how to navigate on the app without any issue. So for that, it's going to be like sound very, very dumb, but if you want to hear more about designing correctly product, you just have to go on basically very big website. The ones who does it very, very great usually are like Amazon, Netflix, Apple, and stuff like this. So it's just stupid, but like you just kind of have to copy them a little bit. All right, so now we have demystified accessibility. Now we have like a little bit boring part because we have to speak about solutions. And why we have to speak about solution? Firstly, to fix all the issues that we seen before, but also to not have this mess where we have the Olympic Games who have 144 accessibility violations. So I'm quite ashamed to be French just for that, but we're going to find like how to basically find a solution for all this mess. And I'm sorry about the one who thinks that it's going to be easy. There is no single solution. We just don't have a package that does like accessibility package. You import it, you go in PubSpec YAML, and that's done. No, it doesn't work like this. I'm very, very sorry about you. But we have a set of solutions. And that's why I'm going to go over all the main categories of disabilities. And I'm going to speak one by one, what can we do now to facilitate their life. Okay, so for the sensory disabilities, we have, again, the blind and visually impaired people. And we can do something for them. We can do actually quite a lot of stuff for them. So the first one actually might be like just logic again. We can just increase or change the size of the font and of the component. What does that mean? That means that, for example, usually we have the one which is on the left, So usually when you or me, or for example, anybody who's not visually impaired, we just scroll with the view that we have on the left. Because for us, it's very readable. We can hear, we can see everything, we can understand, and we don't have to zoom more than that. But there is some people who actually go exactly on the opposite and just have their phone all the way up, the maximum size font all the time. And for us, yes, that's disturbing because we think that, yeah, nobody uses that. It's very ugly. But there is plenty of other people that doesn't search especially the beauty, but more the functionality. They want that when they go on a website, when they go on an application, when they go on any product, basically, they want to be able to use it and not just to be able to look at it and not see and not read what's happening there. We also have an issue with the font. For example, we all have known like the MSN era or something like this, where we have like weird font and like everything was like messy and like one character out of two you couldn't understand what it was. So we have to choose carefully our font. For that, there is like a few fonts who are like very, very great for that. We have usually Arial, Calibri, San Francisco, and Google Sun, who are like kind of recommended because they are like very simple and they don't disturb like the reading of the people. I spoke before about the EAA, so the European Accessibility Act. There is in the European Accessibility Act, which is like probably around like 200 pages, there is like this little charts who actually show basically at which the size of a character should be compared to the distance at which one you see it. For example, if you are with your phone, let me grab my phone, you're basically like 20 centimeters from your eyes. The phone is at least. If to you, for example, all of you, you are watching on this big screen, you are like further out. That's why like this character are like the size of my phone. And that actually makes sense because if everything was the size of the character of my phone there, you couldn't see anything. And like the same, if like I had like the character there, the size of one character there on my phone, I couldn't understand anything either. So there is a ratio that we need to conserve, and this is actually super, super important to respect this ratio. Okay, so now we also have, still for the blind and like visually impaired people, we have also the content with the contrast ratio of 4.5 out of 1. What does that even mean? I'm going to go over it. So what does that even mean? It means that basically we want basically a foreground and a background who allow a lot of contrast. We all have been also on some website, like usually Japanese website or this kind of era website, where you have like gray text over black background or all over the place, and like you cannot have to very focus on the text to basically read what does it even mean, because you can't really see what is the background and what is the foreground in this scenario. So for that, we have like website like colors.co that basically are telling you by putting like a foreground and a background color and telling you if this is a good like mix and if you can have a good contrast between your foreground and your background. We also, we were speaking about like 4.5 out of 1. So what does that mean exactly? This is a standard made by Mozilla in the 90s, something like this. And basically what does that mean? If you go to webaim.org, which is a Mozilla website, you can actually see the contrast ratio. So for example, right now I made like a pinkish foreground and a white background, and we see that the contrast ratio is like 1.5 out of 1. And that's not good enough because basically we can see that after on my text, I fail on every test that they're giving me because we can't see properly, or somebody who is visually impaired will not be able to see properly at least. Okay, so now we have to speak about voiceover and talkback and semantics. Okay, did somebody ever heard about voiceover and talkback, firstly? All right, quite a few. Okay, where's my phone? My phone is there. So when we're speaking about voiceover, voiceover and talkback basically are the same programs. I'm just going to go over the program, what it is, in a few seconds, but when I speak about VoiceOver or TalkBack, they are like basically the same program, but this is the version, Android version and the iOS version. They're both proprietary. But what does that mean? It means that the VoiceOver and TalkBack, they're basically like screen readers. They go over your screen and they just read what they see on the screen. So for now, I can't make a very good demo, but I'm going to try. 1 second. Oop. Maybe. Maybe, maybe not. Otherwise, I will do it with my phone. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to work. All right, it's not a big issue. So what does that mean? It means that basically VoiceOver and TalkBack are a feature that you can enable for on phones. For example, I'm going to activate mine. I don't know if you hear. It just said VoiceOver on, so it just enabled VoiceOver. And what does that do now? Usually when you go, for example, from one page to another, you just scroll and you just tap on thing with your finger. And now it doesn't exactly do the same. It's more like, for example, a tablet with speakers now. Now I can just go there and just with gesture,
Instagram, unfold, WhatsApp.
I can just change
Double tap
like
to open.
what is focused on my screen without having to basically look at it. I can just make basic gestures, like a swipe on the left or a swipe on the right. I can double tap to make a single tap basically if you don't have VoiceOver on, and that allows you to basically move over your phone without having if you are blind, for example, this is what basically most blind people use. If I want to go, for example, on my WhatsApp conversation, I can just double tap anywhere on my screen. I don't have to double tap on the WhatsApp, but I can just double tap anywhere and just open WhatsApp.
11, back button.
And now it just basically reads all my conversation. So
VoiceOver off.
I'm just going to turn it off. Basically, VoiceOver is super useful because any application is basically supported. It means like you don't have to make anything specific, so that screen reader will be able to go over your screen and read what's happening at your screen. But this is where there is a big but. Sometimes it just get it wrong because it's a thing about context. It's basically a dumb piece of tech. It just go over your screen, and if you see writing like the text, I don't know, Belgium, it's just going to say Belgium. But maybe there is a context with the word Belgium. Maybe it was Belgium because it's written like a flag, and you want to write flag of Belgium or something like this. And this is where enter semantics. So, up. No, I was not in focus. Semantics. So in Flutter, we have 5 kinds of semantics. Yes, 5. But there is basically 4 that we basically really use. We have the semantics, and I'm just going to go over it exactly what does that mean, semantics by itself. And we have the semantics is just basically a way to label a widget and just give extra data like metadata to the VoiceOver, to TalkBack, so they can read properly what you have in focus. We also have merge semantics, where basically you have 2 elements and you're going to merge them in one element, so it's going to select the whole element itself. We also have block semantics, which is very simple, as its name indicates. You can basically say that this element can be read or not read, or read as a toggle, basically. And we also have exclude semantics, where basically you just say that you will never go over this item, and you will never read what's corresponding to this. And we have the indexed semantics, but we basically never use it. It's for basically only list views and list, so we mostly just never use it. All right, so what does it even mean when I was speaking about semantics? For example, here we have an icon button. My icon button is basically just deleting something, I guess, because it's have an icon of a trash can, so the icon delete. But maybe for my TalkBack is going to go over it, and he's going to say, oh, icon button, because he sees it an icon and he sees that it's a button. But he will have no idea what does it does. Maybe it's an icon button for adding an object, not deleting it. And this is where we go over semantics, and we just add some stuff. We say that it's a button. Yes, true. Is it a label? Yes, okay, true. And what is a label? The label will be probably delete the item. Then when I go over with VoiceOver or TalkBack, he will say, delete the item button. So this way, we understand that it's a button and it will actually delete the item and not do the opposite or something else. All right, so maybe for those who already experimented with semantics, I don't know if somebody have, I don't know. But for those who already experimented with semantics, we have actually in Matter app a flag that have been passed down and which is like super useful, which is called like show semantics debugger. I don't know if somebody ever used this flag. No? Okay, one. Okay. So now you might be shocked, but when you turn on this flag, you will have this kind of view. The one in the middle, I mean. So for example, on the right, left, I don't know. I'm still bad with it. Sorry. So on the first one, you have like the app that I'm actually building, for example. So for somebody who is like visually impaired, there is no problem. You understand very quickly what is what. You go over the button. You see that there is a menu button. There is accessibility. There is choose a place. There is a button for QR code, and there is some icons. No problem at all. In the middle one, basically we have the flag turn on for semantics, but we didn't do any optimization of the semantics at all. So it's basically we just like develop the application and we just ship it like this. The issue with this, and you can see that, for example, the sandwich button is called just button, and it have no name. You have no idea what does it mean exactly. For example, also we have the little lens icon, and it's just a square with nothing in it. And we also have like the QR code button, which is like just labeled as button again. And it has no context at all. And this is why you want to go over your existing code and add semantics widget. Why? Because on the third example, we have like more context. I have to come back closer because I don't see it from there. But we have, like, for example, the open the menu button. Before we had this nothing, we just have button, and we have no idea what it means. But now we know that the button actually opened the menu. We also have, for example, for the QR code, where we had nothing, we have like a scan a QR code button. Again, we know exactly what that does. And for the last, and here we use like the excluded semantics. For the lens icon, which bring nothing for blind people or visually impaired people, they don't care there's a lens icon because they're not going to see it anyway. So we're just going to destroy it. We're just going to trash it. So visually impaired people don't see it. So there is basically they're just going to swipe over it. And for people who actually can see, they see it, and for them it's beautiful. This is a way to basically make a little bit of like, I don't know how to translate this actually. Basically, just like make something where everybody will be happy with the solution. All right, and still for the sensory disabilities, but also for a lot of other disabilities, and we'll see back again, we have the sensory reminders. I call these sensory reminders. I don't know if it have a name actually. What does that mean exactly? It means, for example, on the bad example, we have an email address and password form. And we, as visually impaired people, we can see clearly that there is an error because the box is red, and we understand that there is an error. But for somebody who maybe have daltonism or maybe have like some other condition and can see, for example, the color red, he will go over it and he will see, oh, the website doesn't work because it's just black and it just stay black, and I have no idea why it doesn't work. And that's why we have sensory reminders. What does that mean? It means that we should always show a success or a failure both ways. For color or text, or a color and a haptic feedback or something. You have to show it both ways because like there is a percentage of people who will not understand that the first way that, that you intend to was correct or a failure. All right, so now we finish with the blind and visually impaired people. We can speak about the deaf and hard of hearing. So it's not super complicated. We can add subtitles to media. I don't know if you have, like, for example, if you embed a YouTube video on your website or on your app, whatever, there is like just a little thing to add in the link to add like basically subtitles. It's super easy. And we also add like sensory reminders. This is like quite easy for them. Now about cognitive disabilities, we have dyslexia. Dyslexia is like quite hard actually to find any solution for them, but we try. And when we try, we basically have like two fonts, which is like Arabic dyslexia and Open Dyslexic. Here you have Open Dyslexic, which is basically fonts that basically help or not help. It depends. It's quite controversial. Some people they find that it helps them to read better, and some other are not. So the thing is, like, anyway, it takes like a 5 minutes thing. It's a 5 minutes thing in your Flutter app. You go there, you put it in the settings, add a font for dyslexic and dyslexic people. You go there, you turn it on. It's just a toggle, and like you're done. And it's like a 5 minute thing, and maybe just with that you help at some people. We also have ADHD, and ADHD is also quite difficult to have to fix basically. So what we can do is more like recommendations. There is no real fix for it. And my recommendation is like to having clean, streamlined interfaces. So no like big mess, no big form who are like 20 page long or something like this. You want to have like very focusable, understandable with the next button or something like this, which is very short and concise on what you need to do. We can also avoid long time as much as possible, of course, because these people are basically having trouble to focus. So you don't want to have like a loading icon for like 40 seconds or something like this. You want to keep it as short as possible, but I think like this is just like what we do usually. And we can also speak about epilepsia. For epilepsia, we can try to just basically not having like big changes of colors. And I think about usually dark theme. We usually have like some kind of dark theme on over our apps, and it takes again 3-4 lines to just add an animation and make that over like 500 milliseconds or 1 second. This way, we are sure that we don't bring epilepsy to some people who will be like who have like this kind of disease, and it takes like again 4 or 5 lines of codes. Again, for mobile mobility disabilities, we will basically bring together temporary and person with reduced mobility, because as you see, temporary is basically just somebody who could have it's just a person with reduced mobility, but over a short period of time. So we'll just treat them together. So what do we do for them? We add like button and easy to access UX. What does that mean? That means, for example, we all have like these problems where we have an add button which is like super far away, and I don't know. Maybe I just have like very short hands, I don't know. But for me, it's super hard to go this way. And if you're only doing like with one arm, you have more chance of dropping your phone on the floor than doing anything else. So the goal is like to keep like super simple application. And I recommend you to just go over and try your apps with only one hand. You just go over one hand and you just go and try to do every action possible on your app with one hand. If you can do it, you're probably good. If you don't, probably something to modify them. All right, we also have adapted mapping. Okay, this one is hard, and I don't think a lot of people will add it. But what does that even mean? It means that, for example, if you have like some people who are in a wheelchair, for example, and you are making a mapping application, or you use Google Maps for whatever reason, for, I don't know, making some specific itinerary or something like this. You want to always find a solution to get to have like people who are in a wheelchair to not go over stair, not go over elevator, not go over any obstacle who can like basically block them in their process. So this is not very easy, because basically usually when you do that you have to do custom maps, and that's quite hard. but I've done it and it works. I think mostly, but that's also very great. And you can also do this kind of mapping for also cognitive disease. For example, ADHD, you can usually, more than like just showing the itinerary like Google Maps, you can basically show a compass and like saying like, okay, go forward 40 meters, and now okay, go on the left for 40 meters, and again and again and again. It's way easier for them than just having like a whole list of instruction where they basically just become a mess for them. All right, and this one is my favorite because I didn't talk about it yet. It's the territorial accessibility. This one I have a little quiz for you. What is this app? Shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, it's Facebook. Okay, now a little bit harder, but I don't know. What is this app? And don't tell me it's Facebook in white, because it's not. It's no. It's not business. It's Facebook Lite. So what is Facebook Lite? Facebook Lite is something that we don't really hear because we are very privileged and we live like in a country where mostly everything works very well. But there is some country where, for example, data is very expensive. Maybe you go over a country and I don't know, maybe you go to, I don't know, somewhere in a third world country and it's very expensive to buy data. And maybe not everybody have an iPhone and maybe not everybody has the latest iPhone, so it's difficult. So, for example, if we make a comparison between like Facebook and Facebook Lite, we have huge difference. The first one is that Facebook is like 75 megabytes, where Facebook Lite is only 2 megabytes. 2 megabytes is not a lot. And for Facebook and Android, we only use Android 11 and more, which is basically we have a whole amount of e-waste that will never be usable because like all those phones are never going to be able to use Facebook. Where we have also Facebook Lite, who basically use Android 8, which is like way older, and we can basically still recycle or reuse those phones that we'll never use. And Facebook Lite is also basically making less requests or also using less animation. And what you can do about that is, I hope everybody is trying to, is not making like the biggest bundle ever if you can, and basically just dropping any assets that you don't use. Also making like optimized requests, not making like 2 requests because it's just easier or something like this. And that's the goal, like just having like using less data. It's good for environment, good for data center, good for everybody, you're paying less, I don't know. It's a win-win situation. If you want to go further, I have like basically a lot of this link and I can hand it over for you later on. The ETSIEN 301549 is a EAA act that I just spoke about. It's like super annoying to read, but you can find somebody who basically summarizes for you. We have also the documentation of accessibility in Flutter. Rebuild Absolute, I don't speak about them, but they make a framework to test your accessibility, because I won't speak about tests, but there is nothing that you can really test automatically with accessibility. You have to test most of the things manually. This is really time consuming and really annoying, but this is the only way. And after you have a lot of other stuff, and you also have like basically code labs for accessibilities over like many technologies. And you have more of those just after. So, so I hope like everybody will learn something about accessibility with my talk. I hope I didn't struggle too much to speak English. And this is me. Yeah, question. Oh.
Hi, it's something about the dyslexia.
Yeah.
It's more about the spacing of the letters than actually the font.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not saying you should use the MSN with all the, I don't know how many things, but if you put more space between the letters, you can use more fonts. because it's actually the closeness of the letters that makes it hard for dyslexic people.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's totally probably true. I mean, like, I'm not saying not, because it's not. I just say that, for example, there is a lot of people, this is why I say it's controversial, because some people that help them and some people that don't help them. Usually they also have a lot of issues with letters that goes over the down or the top. For example, a B or a Q, they have issues because it goes one way or the other, and they also have trouble usually with the B and the D, which are like basically the same letter but upside down or like one way or the other. But yeah, it's totally different for all of the other thing. I feel like even in Flutter we can basically just like make the font spacing, we have a thing for it, and we can basically just also propose a slider and like say like, yeah, let's make some more space between like our character, and I don't think it will be an issue at all. I mean, like, this configuration, you have to find like the right degree on what do you want to configure or not in your app, and that's not easy because maybe you're targeting more business app, maybe more an internal app for your company, or maybe just something like very specific for disabled people, and this way you probably have like more configuration over it.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. You showed a slide where you did an analysis of the Olympic website, where it said like you have, which tool did you use to run that analysis?
I actually didn't do it myself, so I don't know. I found it on Twitter and I found it like very, very funny that it was like already almost 1.5 months like close to Olympics, and they have that much issue, and apparently they didn't work at all over it. So. What is worse is that it's the same website for Paralympics, so I don't know what's going on, but that kind of sucks. So.
I was curious when I saw the semantics written out.
Yeah.
How could we help provide enough context to the user there? Because you have certain titles, and for us it's clear that it's like within a card, that it's actually the title of a section. But would that be clear as well to? It's
not especially clear for blind people. Sometimes, I mean, like most of the time, like basically the text that you want to do, like the label of the semantics will be like the same as the text that you put in your text widget. But sometimes it needs more context and you have to add it manually. For example, like I think like I have it, for example, for the scan button at some point, I just say scan scan a QR code or something like this. But there is no text widget. It just say over it, like say, oh, okay, like provide any context you want basically at the end. It's like free. You don't have to follow basically the text that you're putting under it. If you want to say, for example, title of the section, ... like this is my title, you can do it. Like nothing is preventing you to do it, and it might be useful for somebody. So go for it.
Hi. Have you ever used package accessibility tools? Because it gave a nice possibility. It gives warnings for your missing semantic labels.
There is some package that are helpful. Like accessibility tool, I think it's made by Rebel App Studio, and like they does a lot of stuff. For example, exactly that, like telling you where text are missing semantics widgets. Or label over it, and it also, for example, does when you have a button and it's not 48 by 48 pixel, it tells you that it's too small for basically tapping on it. It does a lot of other stuff, so I've tried it many times. I think it's a great tool, but it's still not something which is standardized, and it's a big issue because we need something which is basically standardized, and that's why I have faith in the European Act.
Thank you.
Maybe just one more. How is the accessibility in Ubuntu?
It's here. I didn't work on that personally, but I know that it does. It is here. I feel like there is some issues with some some languages. I didn't speak about in this talk, but for example, from when we have left to right language usually in Europe, but there is also right to left, for example, Arabic or something like this. And this is more also an issue because you have to think about overflow, but on the other way and some other stuff. So it's a whole mess, but I know that there is there is dark mode, there is screen readers, there is some of the things who are supported, but again, I didn't work on that, so I can't provide any detail.
All right, thanks.
Thanks indeed for your talk. My question, when you go through a website, you use, for example, tab to go to the next focused item. Should I consider that as well for my semantics labels? Or is that even something different that you should consider?
What do you mean exactly by that?
So if you open a website and you press tab, the first selectable or focusable item in your website will be will have like a blue rectangle.
One will be like the one who is read.
Yeah, indeed. So basically, your screen reader would go the same flow, I think.
Yeah.
Should you consider something related to focus when doing accessibility?
You should consider it. For example, you should consider at least that all screen readers go from top to bottom all the time. So if you have like your next button, which is like on top left, for example, then you will have the title and next. And like some people will just go over next, and like they will never read the content of your page because they will not even aware that there was content over your page. And also something you have to be aware, you cannot move the focus of the screen readers. For example, if you have TalkBack and you think that you click on this button, and that because you click on this button, it brings back the focus on some other widget that you want, it's not possible. And it's not possible just because it was ruled out that developer would do nonsense with it. So they just say, we're just going to keep like from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So
considering that, how accessible is a bottom navigation?
How is accessible what?
How accessible is a bottom navigation? So 3 or 5 tabs at the bottom of your screen. If users always need to go through the full screen, and for example, there's
more gesture. I don't know them exactly, every one of them, all of them at least. But there is some gesture where you do like 3 fingers and stuff like this and everything. And there is also, I have a friend which is blind that I've seen like most of the time. Like his voiceovers like go like crazy, like very, very, very fast. And he used also a lot of Siri. Siri is a big help for me. So for him, sometimes he just go, if you don't want like to scroll 4 pages for just going to an application which is like on his 4th landing page on iPhone, for example, he can just go there and like say, oh, launch whatever, and like he just like launch whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's. Again, accessibility is not perfect. I think it's a domain that we just started care about. I mean, like probably like 10, 15 years ago. So it's definitely not far from perfect. But we make big progress in it. And like again, I think like the EA is a good thing because we are finally taking care of like people that need to be taken care of. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Do you have an idea on how well Flutter and platform views work with the semantics?
Yes.
Is it red or not?
Badly. Basically, there is a lot of stuff that doesn't go well. For example, if you are iframe or anything that goes over like this way, it's just going to select the whole frame and not select what's inside the frame because he's not aware that this is like an element which is embedding something else inside of it. So this is why you should like try to not have like that as much as possible. But again, like this is not something, it's depending of every case, every application is different. There is not again a one solution thing. It's not like something like you can just go over it and say like, yeah, let's just do like this for every app because it just doesn't work. There is also a big problem with shorts. Because shorts sometimes they have curve, and like for us we can definitely see that, for example, it's a curve that go up or down or something like this, and you can see that, for example, I don't know, if you have a short over the year, you can see, for example, 2014, oh yes, this was this amount, but this to bring this accessible, it's a big mess. Honestly, it's just easier to just usually just reducing the amount of data and just say like, yeah, the charts show the evolution from 2014 to nowadays, and the charts are showing an increase of that many percent. Because you can't just show like saying like, oh yeah, 2016 it was great or not or whatever, you know. So it's more complicated.
Okay, thank you.
One more question.
Very quick one. Like snack bars and toast messages. Are these also, because you mentioned if you enter your password faultly,
yeah,
you noticed you mentioned let me just render a text widget or something underneath in red, or are those messages and snack bars also, if they come up, are they red? Did they get the focus?
Snack bar are red over the top because they are scaffold of Messenger, whatever. That means that they are like on top, more than top than the view itself. Yeah, for example, if you just make like the error at the bottom, like for example, there is an error, this is just a text, it's not going to be read by the voiceover thing. But at this point, because like this is more like for people who don't have full blindness, that you do like this kind of like sensorial, I forgot how I call them, but you got what you know what I mean. But if you have full blindness, it's just better to just like make up. When you tap on the submit thing, you just go, you are not connected. You can just say you are not connected, or so, oh no, error in the password or email or something. Like you can just like you can just go over that more than just like. Because you are not limited to semantics only, you can also have like anons. Anons is like a thing that exists on Flutter and in basically every technology, where you can just say that, for example, when you have a callback, and you can say, the telephone can just say whatever that. And the problem is that you cannot say it like only for people who only have these abilities. So you can have kind of like a tweak or saying like, if the person have activated this and this and this option, then you can guess that he's probably blind. Then like you can probably announce stuff and not announce it for people who are not blind. That's
okay, thank you.
Right. Yeah, I think that's yeah. Okay.
I'm still going to be there. I'm not leaving.
So I think thanks again for your.